it's Dr. Syra, and welcome to Ask Dr. Syra, the show where I answer your questions about relationships, spirituality, and personal development. Okay, so the question this week comes from Farah, and the question of the week is, Dear Dr. Syra, my parents and I have very different viewpoints. I live in the house with them, though I am an adult. It doesn't make financial sense for me to move out on my own yet. There is a lot of conflict in our home these days. Can you help? Okay. So, Farah, first of all, thank you for your question. And this is not an uncommon, unfortunately, not an uncommon problem, right? That we have different generations living in a home and maybe the values aren't aligned, or maybe, it could be little things. It could be little things like, those irritating little things when you're living with someone, which are like the mess or the this or the that. But it sounds like what you're talking about is those deeper issues around values, around the way we speak to each other, the way we interact with each other, maybe what we believe about the world. I know right now it's a very timely issue because people are living in intergenerational households, and with the conversations that are going on these days about race, there can be some tough conversations. I had a few tough conversations last week with my family members, and I'm a bit torn because there's a part of me that thinks some people just aren't going to change. But then there's the counselor part of me that's seen even the most stubborn people change. And so it's frustrating, right, to know, like, should I actually have these conversations? Should I actually push here? Should I actually stand up for what I need? On the other hand, I want harmony in my home. I want to not be walking on eggshells all the time, and maybe it's just better not to say anything. And so what I found happens for a lot of people, the not saying anything, is that, well, I can speak from my own cultural background, right? So in my culture that I come from, there's this kind of hierarchy of age. And so the elders are looked up to, they're listened to, they're respected, and the younger people are supposed to kind of go along with what the elders are asking. Now, our parents, when they were our age, did that, right? They listened and they went along with what their parents had planned for them, what their parents thought for about life. They just kind of went along with it. Our generation, not so much, right? So we're saying, I don't know if what you're asking me to do is ethical, like with my current standards and values. I don't know if what you're asking me to do makes practical sense. I don't know. And so there's a bit more of that conflict. And part of that is likely, Farah, for those of us who are from immigrant backgrounds, we're doing that cultural straddle where part of our value system is absolutely that of our parents, and part of our value system isn't, right? It's of the new country in which we grew up. And so there's this little bit of tension. So I would say in this sort of a situation, you really have to be thoughtful about what are the battles that are worth fighting. Right? Because I know for some of the elder aunts and uncles in my life, like there's just certain battles that are not worth fighting because they just won't get it. However, there are other people who, with dialogue, discussion, they're willing to see another side. They're willing to have a conversation. They're willing to learn. They don't do that. You're younger than me, so you have nothing important to say. They don't do that. So it would be about figuring that out in your household. Who are the people in your household who are going to make space for what you have to say, and who are those who just won't? They just won't because of maybe their role in the family, maybe the way that the family system's set up. One thing that's important is that you don't keep it inside, right? So I'm not saying swallow, because that's another thing, right? As a child of immigrant parents, it's like, don't make a fuss, don't make a big deal, just swallow it, deal with your feelings on your own, and act like everything's okay. That was how I was trained. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying swallow it. I'm not saying that you just have to suck it up. Because if you do that, that creates discomfort and eventual disease in the body. Like, we know that, right? And there's only so much. There's only for so much time that we can do that before something's gotta snap. So I would say find safe, accommodating places to let it out. To let out some of this discomfort, this disappointment, this anger, whatever is going on between you and your family. To someone who already loves your family, already is invested in your family, right? So somebody who knows you, who knows your family. It could sometimes be a cousin or a really close friend who has a similar sort of background or similar sort of family experience. And you can just vent, right? Just kind of get it out. If you don't have someone like that in your life, journaling is another great way to do it. One of the things you might want to do is just write a letter to your parents. Write that letter and write down everything that you want to say, like even the stuff you would never say to their face. Write it all down. And then take that letter and let it go, right? So that could mean you tear it up. That could mean you submerge it in, the water, flush it down the toilet. I don't think you can flush paper down the toilet. Don't flush it down the toilet. But do something, like let it go, let it release it. Because we do need to express, but we can't always express to the people that we need to express to, because your housing may be in jeopardy. You don't want to get kicked out, but there might be some issues that are worth getting kicked out over, and that's up to you to kind of, navigate. So those are my thoughts for your question. It's a complicated question. I can't just take 6 minutes and answer it, but I hope I've given you some ideas of how to navigate the space, and know that you're not alone. Know that you're not alone. So many people, adults, are living with their parents to save money, to look after their parents, because that's how the cultural system of their community works, whatever reason. And so it's not about severing that relationship, it's about learning how to live together. And one of the ways we learn to live together is making sure we inside are okay. And one of the ways that we make sure we're okay is we have places to go where we can put some of this energy. So those are my thoughts. Join me next week for Ask Dr. Syra. See you then. Bye.